Welcome back to Spitballing Cards. In today's video, we're talking all about players who are exceeding expectations, beating expectations, proving all of us wrong, looking in the bottom right corner at Chris. And on top of that, we're going to be discussing the NL MVP. So the player I brought up first actually proved me and Chris wrong, to be fair. So I want to make that apparent. I'm picking on Chris, but it was also me. And that player is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So we'll talk about him in a moment. But with that being said, it's me, Scott, Ty, Phil, and Chris on this episode. Guys, how the heck are you? You doing good? Everybody doing fine and dandy?
Feeling great.
Okay.
Feeling great.
So, Chris, you made a bet with Jeff earlier this year.
Yes, we did. Jeff and I bet on Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s home run total on the season. We made this bet end of June. We put the number. I think he had 10 or 11 home runs at the time, and his ground ball rate was surging, and I was just sick of it. And I believe he put the over-under at 21.5. And I took the under, and Jeff took the over. And it took Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 5 weeks to prove me wrong. In the month of July, he slugged over 700. He got a haircut and just became whatever adjustments he's been making. I know there was stuff in the offseason about his launch angle and his swing path. It seems to be clicking for whatever reason. He's started hitting balls in the air. And it's pretty exciting to see. I was happy to fork over the $5.
Yeah, all your Vladimir Guerrero Jr. cards are finally paying off. And the thing is, I've been negative about Vlad, but at the same time, we always knew he could do this once he just fixed a few things. And I think we're all happy he's doing it. And the thing is, he's only, 25? But with that being said, can you get the exact date you made that bet for me, Chris?
I want to say it was I think we aired it on the 29th of July, so we made the bet a few days earlier.
Okay. So since the 29th of June.
Yeah, June. I'm sorry. I said July. Of June.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has 10 home runs, and he's hitting 386 with a 763 slug and a 225 WRC plus for 1.8 F4, which is more than he had all of last year in the last month. So
very clearly someone sent him the video, and he felt so personally offended and extra motivated that he's just taken off, which is awesome.
Like Blake Snell pitching a no-hitter after all the accusations about pitching into the seventh.
And 15 Ks 2 games prior. Good for Blake Snell. He's trying to get an actual paycheck.
He's doing Blake Snell.
I will say though, Scott, you sort of said that Guerrero cards are paying off. They're definitely not paying off. Despite this month, there isn't much movement, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time. We may never see them back at the highs they were at, in 2021. But he's interesting. He's 25. He turns 26 in March of next year. So before he turns 27, he'll have 1,000 hits and really close to 200 home runs, a shot at 200 home runs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty impressive.
At the end of his career, there's a good chance his Hall of Fame case is going to be extremely interesting.
Yes.
Some people are going to just say, yeah, look at his counting stats. They say, well, he's been horrible on a rate base. It'll be very interesting. I do also talk about Bobby Witt and Phil. Bobby Witt is kind of your guy, I will say. We recently did a position draft. And Ty was the one keeping track of all of our draft picks, right? And Phil was like, okay, I think this next pick is pretty obvious for shortstop. It's going to be, and Ty started to type out Gunnar Henderson before Phil said Bobby Witt. So Ty had to delete it and put Bobby Witt in. And that was right before Bobby Witt went on an even more remarkable tear than what Vlad did the last month. Bobby Witt this last month has 8 home runs. It's hitting 440 with 3 Fangraphs WAR and a 234 WRC plus while being a plus defender. So Phil,
he hit 500 over a 25-game stretch.
It's pretty
insane. Had a 3.3 Fangraphs WAR in that stretch. Insane.
So Phil, do you feel like the smartest man in the room right now?
Yeah, of course. I think Scott and I were talking about this last year offline, and if Bobby Witt could only get his on base percentage above 330, then we can take him seriously. And he got close to 330. He was sitting around 325, and then he just lost it in September and finished probably around 315 to 320, 322 maybe. But this year he was, instead of scraping up against 330, he was scraping up against 400 for a little bit because he was hitting above 350 last week. So him versus Gunnar, Bobby Witt, higher pedigree, hits the ball a little bit harder, sprays the ball out a little bit, especially towards the beginning of the year until he started to put the ball in the air more and hit it for pull side, which is good because his home runs were a little bit behind last year's pace. 100th percentile outs above average, 100th percentile sprint speed. So you take those other secondary skill sets, because we care most about offense, and he's just ahead of Gunnar in those two things. Now, being on the Royals, it's going to be tough for him to win MVP, and he probably wouldn't anyways against Judge and what Judge is doing, because even though the F WAR is really close, the B WAR is probably Judge right now. A lot of it depends on the offensive side of the equation and what Judge is doing. The WRC plus, even though Witt at one point last week was at 170, which is what Acuna did last year. That's a good WRC plus for a speedster, but that doesn't compare to like Juan Soto's best season or what Judge is doing this season. But the Royals are only like 4 or 5 games behind the Yankees. So if the Yankees don't win that division, Witt finishes strong. He's already slowed down, I think. I actually put a futures bet on him to win MVP during the All-Star break. He was 20-1, and Judge was like minus 500 or something. It was ridiculous. And I was just thinking like, well, July, even before he finished that ridiculous pace Witt did, second half of July historically was Witt's best month based on like weighted OBA and OPS. So I figured, if he's going to hit his stride, I still think that home run surge is coming. He could still get to 30. 40-40, no. Ohtani might get there. I'm sure we'll talk about him next or something. Yeah. But 30-30 with a 350 average with a WAR of close to 10, that could take down Judge depending on where Judge finishes and if he gets hurt or something. So
this is interesting. It kind of reminds me of, that's actually quite different, to be honest. But we could talk about Miguel Cabrera versus Mike Trout MVP races. Obviously, Judge is doing things a little bit different, and his WAR is reflecting that, where Miggy was mostly pure offense. But we talked about, Mike Trout was all around. Bobby Witt's kind of doing that same thing.
Judge has a negative D WAR. He's negative 0.5. Judge. You said Miggy was only offense, but Judge is only offense too. He's got a negative.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. But like Judge is better defensive. He doesn't have the positional hit that Miggy had at first base. He's a better base runner still and a better defender. But with that being said, is Judge versus Witt, and even Juan Soto is right behind them. This is an amazing year, guys. Not one player was more than 6.6 F4 in the American League last year. We have 3 guys over 7 in the beginning of August. Pretty amazing season so far.
AL is stacked this year. Stacked.
With that being said, I'm actually going to share my screen again because we're going to jump to a different topic. And that is going to be the National League. Let me do this. We're going to actually come up here and we're going to do all leagues. We're going to do the National League and update this thing. And we're going to see Bryce Harper has dropped way behind Ohtani. Bryce Harper had the worst slump of his career this last month. He was horrible. Oh, yeah. He seems like he's getting out of it. But what do we think about, the NL MVP? We're seeing Ketel Marte come back. His B WAR is a lot closer to Ohtani's B WAR. Lindor is second in the National League in B WAR. What are we feeling like with the NL MVP? Is Ohtani lock, or do you think Ketel Marte, who has pretty similar numbers offensively, realistically, aside from actual rate like WRC plus, do we think there's a run there? What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's not over by any means. If Arizona gets into the wild card, I don't see why Ketel Marte couldn't challenge. But I mean, I'd say that Ohtani's definitely, if the season ended today, Ohtani would win.
Yeah.
I mean, that Dodger team, the Braves have been crushed by injuries, but the Dodgers have been crushed almost as bad. And there have been games where it's just Ohtani in that lineup. Like Freeman was dealing with his family issues, and Ohtani's had about as good a season as you could imagine, like a National League DH.
Yeah, definitely. Phil, you have been kind of connected to Ketel Marte in a way, because in the past you made videos talking about him being a potential buy, and it was like a short term. You still have some. What do you think of Ketel Marte? Is there something there?
I really hope he falls off for the sake of baseball. Yeah, I think if the season ends today, I think Ohtani might win his 3rd unanimous MVP. Has anybody even won 2 unanimous MVPs other than Ohtani before? And that'll tie Ohtani with most among active players, which is Mike Trout. So another reason for people to forget about Mike Trout, in addition to what happened to him recently, which we won't talk about because he's not relevant anymore. But Ohtani has a real shot at 40-40 this year. As I mentioned, the stolen bases have really ticked up, and stolen bases are kind of more in your control as a player versus home runs. And it doesn't seem like the Dodgers will put training wheels on a lot of their pitchers with regards to innings. But with Ohtani, they haven't done much with his base running abilities and fear of him maybe injuring his arm or whatever, collarbone, going head first in a second or whatever. So in addition to that, the last time I checked, Ohtani was leading 2 of the 3 Triple Crown categories. And I know Triple Crown's like kind of like antiquated at this point because it counts RBIs, and we're just like, who cares about RBIs? Even batting average, we like on base percentage a little bit better as a more indicative measure of players' offensive value. But still, this guy with a half-healed UCL, a guy that I didn't think he'd be hitting right away or much in the first half at all when we heard about this injury, the Tommy John surgery that he was going to get in, what was that, like August of last year, early September last year, maybe when he officially got it or something. Like, it's unreal what he's doing this year. The OPS above 1,000. He's becoming a better hitter every year. And it's like the narrative of he needs to pitch to be relevant. He still needs to pitch for a few more seasons. I don't know if he needs to pitch or be a starting pitcher for another 2 or 3 seasons. I don't know if that's as important anymore because he already did it in the past and he dominated. And if he wins an MVP just from hitting and being really the first DH ever to do so, even though he kind of did that in 2021, this is insane. Unfortunately, offense is down across the board. It's kind of an anomaly of a season. Usually you've got a few guys with at least a 7 WAR in the NL. I don't know if Lindor gets there. I don't know if Marte gets there. We'll see. Interestingly, Marte is actually even closer to Ohtani in Baseball Reference WAR right now. But D-backs not making the playoffs, right? They probably won't. That will hurt Marte. Okay, we don't know is what you were saying, Chris, earlier.
Yeah, it's the NL has a log jam.
There's still a lot of
teams
baseball,
that have a
50
chance.
games left. I mean, anything.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I've been sharing my screen this whole episode. I want to make sure you've been seeing stuff. Here is Marte versus Ohtani in regards to WAR. Marte's 0.1 off, so Ohtani may not hold that lead. In regards to home run, he's only 6 back, RBI 2 back, batting average, he's not far behind. Ohtani's way ahead in slug and OBP and OPS. But, the argument you heard about Bryce Harper is Ohtani's a DH and Marte plays the field. So do we think that's going to be an argument that actually hurts Ohtani, or do you think we're over that at this point because it's not Bryce Harper anymore? When I say we, I mean more of the national media than actually our opinions, because I don't want to say we feel that way, but do we think that's going to be the narrative going forward? What do you think, Chris?
It depends if Arizona gets hot. If Arizona sneaks into the playoffs, then this could be a really, really interesting debate. Do we have a middle? By the way, raise your hand if you knew Ketel Marte had 27 home runs, because I just found that out just now.
I did only because I've been looking at fantasy stats.
Yeah, he's having an incredible season. He's really picking up the slack that Corbin Carroll is creating. But yeah, if they sneak into the playoffs, that'll be a really interesting conversation. Does Ohtani's do his rate stats make up for the fact that Ketel Marte also plays good defense and Ohtani doesn't?
Yeah.
The amazing thing is Ohtani's doing it with such a huge positional adjustment and still beating him in WAR. I feel like voters need to understand how these stats work. I understand the value of having a player do both. It's already kind of added in to the rate stats like WAR, but it's also still beating them every counting stat. So I still think if you ask 30 out of 30 GMs, all 30 would say Ohtani at this point, who they have on their team moving forward. But you can't argue that what Marte is doing is not impressive, because it is. Yeah. It's really impressive.
By the way, how does Ohtani have that many RBIs? He's second or third in the National League in RBIs. Yeah. He's been leading off for 2 months.
Yeah, especially because Ohtani doesn't have the best numbers of runners in scoring position, honestly. So
Ketel Marte's cards, by the way, have not really moved at all.
No.
And so here's his most expensive sale of the year. Oddly, a Topps Chrome Black Superfractor Scribble Auto. This card to me is much cooler and a completely different autograph. That autograph compared to that autograph. Hard to say that's the same guy, but yeah, I mean, it's wild that you have a guy literally in second in Vegas odds and competing with a guy named Ohtani for NL MVP, and his cards don't sell at all. Yeah. He's obviously been in the league for a little while, but I don't know. Maybe he keeps creeping up. If he closes the gap, I would expect a short-term burst, at least on some of his stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you would expect that. No guarantee, because it's still Ketel Marte. Most people can't even pronounce his first name.
Yeah. 32 WAR through his age 30 season. Sorry, Phil. But he's had a good career. Really
2019, he finished third in MVP voting, I think.
Did he really?
Maybe fourth. After
NLCS MVP last year, too. He's got some postseason hardware.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with the Dodgers, what's going to help Ohtani if vote splitting is even a thing? Usually the guy that has the best season doesn't like lose votes to other guys on his team. That's not how it works. But Mookie not being there for a few months, and then Freddie Freeman's really slowed down his pace and isn't having nearly the year as he did last year. Number of pitching injuries too in the Dodgers. Ohtani's really carried that team. It's not like they've got a bunch of superstars that are just dominating night in, night out. The Dodgers have struggled a bit this year, so
They would
I think
not be
that'll
winning
help.
their division. They would not be winning their division right now if Ohtani wasn't there. I think the Padres
No,
only 4
no way.
games back. Like they would not be winning that division.
And of course, Marte is the only reason why the D-backs are even close. It's not Corbin Carroll. It's not Alec Thomas. It's not Lourdes Gurriel.
Christian Walker was having a really good season until he got hurt.
That is true. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Hey,
All right, well, I got a question. You guys love Bobby Witt. I want to pose this question. If you don't, we don't have to talk about it. You can edit it out if you want to. But since we talked about Bobby Witt and he's going nuts, do you guys have a card or two of his that you really like? Not besides a Bowman first, like something else with a great image, something Bobby Witt, a card of his that you like, you're looking for. I don't know. I'm curious.
I used to own the Heritage Gold number 5.
Oh,
That's painful letting that go. But because I let it go, I bought a purple Bowman Chrome Auto, and you guys laugh at me like, it's purple. I don't buy those. Like, yeah, well, it was in a trade. So I don't know.
Did we call you for that, Phil? I don't think we did.
Nah, it might have been Chris might have looked at me funny.
I definitely gave you a kind of a sideways look for sure.
Yeah, it might have been all in your head. I thought it was cool, Phil.
Yeah, the Heritage pose from 22. I prefer the J-Rod one with like the bat sort of next to the camera. So I'd say to answer Chris's question, like that probably wouldn't be it.
What about his throwback variation? Is that even a rookie, or is that a second year with the rookie logo for some reason?
No, he's got an actual. I think he has a throwback rookie. I think it's him like leading off. I think. But yeah, I like that SSP from 2022 update. That's a cool looking card.
Do you want me to show the throwback I found?
Throwback. It's this one. I got it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, this is the.
That's
throwback.
the second year.
That's second year though.
Oh, that's second year. Oh,
yeah.
Hold on. Let's see.
Rookie year is him just standing there. It's actually kind of a boring card, to be honest. There's a reason. Hey, second year Ben. I know him on Instagram. He's just selling it right now. But I can show it real quick if you'd like, Ty. I have it pulled up.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I usually have 2 screens, but I'm not at my normal location, so it's a little bit different being on one. So I'm sorry about the infinity loop you get every time I share my screen.
I like the Heritage rookie. I was looking at the Heritage rookie, the SP image variation where he's got his hands like this. He's like out on second base.
Okay.
Here's a throwback. Kind of lame. Could have been cooler, right?
No, that's Gunner. I was mixing him up with Gunner.
Yeah. Yeah, this is. I mean, these are rare. Like, do we know a print run on the throwbacks? I think
they're like 20 or less or something. Yeah.
I've always heard like 20 to 30.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've even increased that print run. They've ruined a lot of stuff, but that's been pretty consistent.
Nice.
So I like that one. I do like his top. Is it the Tops update where it's like he's looking over his shoulder and he's like a mullet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's
I think that's the SP.
Yeah, it's the SP.
Yeah. That one's cool. The SSB is great. I think you can see the Royals logo like 3 or 4 times in that SSB. I like that one. He's like walking to take his hacks in the cage. It looks like.
You know what I like? I like my Bobby Witt Jr. Stadium Club Chrome X-Fractor.
Yes, that's the horizontal one where he's in the dugout, like high-fiving his teammates, right?
That's a good card.
Yeah, that's one of his best rookie images by far.
Is there an autograph of that version, Chris? Because if so,
the only autos with that image are the 91 parallels, I guess. So there's 31 autos, but they all have the 91 design. There's like 25 base, 5 reds, and a super. But his regular Stadium Club Chrome auto is a different image entirely. Yeah, that's a really cool card, Ty.
I will say though, there's a lot of his rookies I don't think are that good looking, which is hard for Bobby Witt. They did him a little bit of a disservice on a lot of it, but yes, that's Bobby Witt. What about Vlad? Right? What about Vlad? What cards do we like most of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? I think he has some better stuff out there than
he's got a ton of cards. He's got a lot of cards. Yeah.
Yes.
I really like his Stadium Club rookie. I know I would bring up Stadium Club again, but it's like a close-up shot of his face. He just looks like kind of looks like a kid. And when you think about his dad being like, the major leaguer, he's still. I'll pull it up here and show you guys. But I saw this one. I saw the rainbow foil auto recently for sale, and I really considered going after it. But just innocent little Vladdy. I like it. It's a great.
Speaking of innocent, what about the Bowman Chrome Auto 2016? It's a nice card. And you get a blue one, blue ink on it, nice auto.
Oh, yeah. He looks so young in that picture. He's got to be like, what, 17 years old
like,
or something in that photo?
Yeah. It's like 40 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his kind of like Bobby Witt too. His update.
There you go.
The 2 image variations Guerrero has in 2019 update, I think, are both great.
I have that one pulled up to show because I do like that one as well. I'm gonna steal the screen again.
Yeah.
But this is what you're talking about, Chris. This one. This is a good looking card. I'm guessing this is his first hit.
That's his first major league hit. Yeah. That card is phenomenal.
Cool card.
Yeah.
And
it's like
so this is one of my favorites.
SFP. I think there's 11 or 10 PSA 10s, I think.
If I was going to buy a rookie card of his, it would be that one personally. It's actually a pretty good price. But the other one,
I also like his, if you can find an image of it, his SP at update is also really cool. I think he's standing on second base and kind of pointing.
Yes, I'll pull that one up.
Okay.
I just want to know, I actually like his Topps Chrome and SP card. I think it's cool. I think it's a good image of him.
Yeah.
Let's look. Topps update, you said?
Yeah, just pointing.
This guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this one too. Last I looked, there were exactly 100 PSA 10s. So, I mean, it's the update stuff is really hard to grade in 2019.
Yeah, good looking card. They did him a lot better than Bobby Witt, in my opinion, on a lot of his stuff.
His Sapphire, unfortunately, is kind of a dumb photo. It's like his hand's like limp. It's like weird.
Yeah, that's
like a Salt Bay or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of those cards where you just wonder, like, why? What about that image made someone be like, oh yeah, let's put that in the premium product.
Put that in the premium product we're trying to grow the impact of.
And to wrap us up, Phil, you're the Ketel Marte super fan here.
Oh yeah.
What's the best rookie card? Give us one before we end this episode.
Might be biased as I might own this, but the Topps Chrome Sapphire, which is from the inaugural set, right?
Ooh.
2016. Printed about 250 of those, so a little bit less than even 2018. But why not get the gold, which I think might be number 10? There you go.
Bang.
Number 5 out of 5. Only parallel.
Screw that up.
Because they have the out of 5, and then they have a superfractor only if they didn't have a superfractor in regular Topps Chrome. And so, like, if he had a regular superfractor in Topps Chrome, I don't believe he had one in Sapphire. So this is the only Sapphire parallel. I'm not mistaken.
You know what this face is? This face here is the face of a guy trying to break the 40 baseball savant speed rating.
I think you might be right. Nobody knows if this actually looks like him because nobody actually knows what Ketel Marte looks like.
Nobody's actually confirmed he's real.
Oh, that's funny.
It's sad the Mariners traded him. Mariners have had some bad misses. So, anyways. All right, guys. Well, that's a good place to end this episode. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
All right.